And good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started. Thank you again for joining ACNJ's first Lunch and Learn of the program year. My name is Shadea Bennett, and I am the Senior Legislative Analyst here at ACNJ. Today's topic is Getting Out the Vote, a discussion centered around making our voices heard through the election process. Again, just some housekeeping rules. This presentation will be recorded during the first half of the webinar. We like to post our lunch and learns online so people in our networks are able to access the information at a later time, especially if they're interested in the content but aren't able to attend live. However, when we get to the Q&A portion of the event, we'll stop recording. We also ask again that everyone be mindful of keeping themselves muted during the presentation unless at the end you have a question. So again, we're excited to be hosting today's Lunch and Learn on Get Out the Vote, Making Your Voices Count. With us are our guest presenters from the New Jersey Division of Elections, who will share their expertise and provide insight to inform our navigation of the electoral process as New Jersey residents. So we're happy to welcome Eric Kipnis, who is the Manager of Constituent Relations at the Division of Elections. We have Brittany Giampola, who is the Deputy Director of the Division of Elections. And I'm not sure, but she was great, so I'm just going to highlight her. Donna Barber, who is the Director of the Division of Elections. So they'll be our guest presenters toward the middle of the session. So before we get started, I will kick off with sharing some background information to provide context before handing it over to our guest speakers. So just some context about who we are. ACNJ is a nonpartisan child advocacy organization that advocates for measures that benefit children and families. We engage policymakers, members of the public, and other stakeholders to identify issues that impact children and promote policy changes that aid their success and well-being. Children, as you know, cannot vote and have no political influence in theory. So we do our work to empower parents, community members, and other actors who care for and engage with children so that they can do the same. ACNJ Lunch and Learn sessions seek to bring industry experts, community members, and our networks together to engage in meaningful discussions centered around specific topics largely related to the latest trends, strategies, and insights in child advocacy. We want to provide useful information to our audiences to empower them with the tools needed to effectively advocate for themselves, children, and their communities. So again, today's session is an opportunity to provide insight on engaging in the democratic process through the act of exercising one's right to vote. So voting is the cornerstone of our democracy, a major avenue by which we ensure our government reflects the will of the people. Voting is one of the most important steps we as citizens can take to influence the leaders and policies that govern our everyday lives. Elections matter. Elections determine the individuals who are put in place to create the laws that dictate various aspects of our daily living, from health and safety to education and employment. Elections translate into policies that determine how much or how little is invested into essential programs that support working families, like Head Start and childcare, nutrition, and housing assistance programs. Elections also result in who determines the individuals who are appointed to our highest courts, those who are responsible for interpreting and solidifying laws that govern the land. The right to vote has been a hard-won fight, specifically for historically disenfranchised populations. From the women's suffrage movement to the civil rights movement, people have faced challenges securing this fundamental right so that future generations can benefit. In fact, fights that led to landmark decisions related to voting rights, such as the 19th Amendment and the Voting Rights Act, display just how powerful this right is, because it is a tool for citizens to assert their rights and demand equity. So when people engage in the electoral process, change can happen. Every vote counts and every voice matters. In many elections, the outcome can be determined by a handful of votes. Your participation can be the difference in shaping the future. Voting not only matters at the presidential level or the federal level. While most people tend to only participate every 4 years, we must remember that elections at the state and local levels matter just as much, if not more sometimes. This year's election is about more than just the presidential election. We also have congressional elections, including elections for 34 US senators, including in New Jersey. All 435 House of Representatives seats are up. Seats in the 44 state legislatures are up, and 11 governor races, alongside scores of municipal races and ballot initiatives. Fun fact, in New Jersey, there is some kind of election every year. New Jersey also holds a statewide election every odd number year for our members of the legislature. In New Jersey, this year, voters will go to the polls to elect the president, congressional leaders, and local representatives throughout the state. And next year, New Jerseyans will be back at the polls for a statewide election to elect a new governor and members of our General Assembly. So in terms of elevating the importance of this type of discussion and why it is essential for us to be informed and aware ahead of elections, every year, millions of Americans find themselves unable to vote because they miss a registration deadline, don't update their registration, or aren't sure how to register. Voters often fall into several categories, including those who are newly eligible, those who need to update registration because they have new addresses, and those who have recently become citizens or changed their names. In the 2020 presidential election, as many as 1 in 4 Americans reported not being registered to vote or unsure if they were registered as their reason for not voting, with over 600,000 non-voters specifically citing a registration problem. In 2024, millions of Americans will face a new landscape of voting laws passed by their states in the wake of the 2020 election, which could impact registration status and ability to vote. Therefore, it's important to ensure that you're registered, informed about what to do and where to go to cast your ballot so that you are ready to exercise your right to vote. With that, I'll stop sharing my screen and introduce Eric, our guest speaker for the afternoon. Thank you again, Eric, for joining us, and you can feel free to take it away.
Okay, thank you, Shade. I appreciate it. I am happy to be here. Give me 1 second while I adjust for technology, and hopefully I'll pull up the right screen. So hang on for a second. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having us here today to talk about voting and the importance of voting and civic engagement. As Shade said, I'm Eric Kipnis. I'm the manager of constituent relations at the New Jersey Department of State, and I lead the Jersey Civic Engage Initiative, which is one of our major civic engagement initiative. And I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. We're really excited to see all of you here at this ACNJ webinar. As I mentioned to Shade before, we've worked with ACNJ very, very closely in the past, particularly around the census back in 2020, and what a great organization. So welcome, everybody. I have with me also today, as you know, Brittany Jimpola, our Deputy Director of the Division of Elections, who will catch me when I make a mistake about anything, which is why. No, she's here to answer your questions as well. Sorry, folks. Anyway, here's the agenda for today. It's a pretty packed one, so I'll move quickly through it. And we'll take questions at the end. First portion, I'm going to talk about general election information and give you an update on that and some of the information that you're looking for regarding voting, and then talk about how voting empowers us and voter education and outreach programs that we run at the Department of State, so you know what we're doing and how you might want to get involved as well. So let's get started. Okay, first of all, general election is a great way to get engaged in your community and in our democracy. If you're an organizer, I know some folks on this call are parents, some folks may be part of another agency and do some organizing in their community, but if you're an organizer, it's a great way, it's a great activity to organize your community around. And we, that's something that we try to promote. Elections are about community. New Jersey is very proud of its mission to make sure that everyone who can vote does vote. And we've placed a particular emphasis here at the Department of State on helping young people to form good habits, the good habits of being engaged civically and as voters. One of the things that voters really need is accurate information. In this age of misinformation and disinformation, it's really important to know that you have a trusted site to go to, and that so you can inform yourselves. And the New Jersey Voter Information Portal, which is at vote.nj.gov, is the state's official site that gives voters the most trusted and up-to-date election related information. It's a one-stop shop for voters to find out everything they need to know to vote. It's very widely utilized by individual voters and organizations across the state, and we want to make sure that everyone knows about it and uses it. So please feel free to share this with folks. It's really designed for voters. You can get a sense of the layout on this screen. Another place that you can go to get good information and trusted information is your county clerks and county board of elections web pages as well. These are the trusted pages for accurate information and up-to-date information. In New Jersey, you can register to vote when you're 17 and vote when you turn 18. It's very easy. You can register online or by using a postage paid voter registration form. And if you want to see if you're already registered, you can go to Am I Registered on that vote.nj.gov webpage. You're going to hear me repeat that webpage over and over again. So, but again, you fill out a very quick online form and it gets you to your information virtually immediately, and you'll know. If you don't see if you're registered and you want to double check, you can also go to your county election officials, and that information is also available on vote.nj.gov. They would be able to help you with questions about the status of your registration, because each county manages their own election. Manages the election across New Jersey. It's very common, by the way, in states all across the country for that to happen. We oversight the election at the Division of Elections. And here's a QR code for taking you to the Registered to Vote page. We're going to provide this whole presentation to you, so you don't need to start holding up your phone necessarily right now. Just wanted to let you know it's available, okay? This is the online voter registration form, or at least the first page of it. It's easy and you can do it, and it's easy to use. It's online. It tells you what you need right from the get-go to get registered, and then takes you step by step through the registration process. And this is the Spanish version of it. So it's available in multiple languages. Or you can use paper forms that you can download from the New Jersey Voter Information Portal. And here are two examples of that. Probably a form that you've seen before and that you've used before. We've specifically designed a portion of the Voter Information Portal for student voters. Student voter registration, the student voter registration and voting page provides links to voter registration tools, including the online voter registration form and links to the printable postage-free voter registration forms for each county. We promote this when we're doing work with students across the state. Again, it's part of vote.nj.gov. Just a reminder, the deadline to register to vote for this general election is October the 15th, okay? The registration shop at the Department of State, though, is open 24/7 year-round because of the online voter registration form. But do make sure that folks you know are registered by the 15th of October in order to vote in the general election. So let's talk about the ways you can vote in New Jersey. There are 3 ways to vote in New Jersey. We're very, very lucky in New Jersey to have this many ways to vote. That's not the case in some places around the country. We want to make it as easy as possible for all eligible voters to vote. So how can you do that? Well, at your polling place on election day, for sure. We have in-person early voting, which we'll talk about in a second. And we have the ability to vote by mail, which is another form of early voting, but one that you do by mail or using secure drop boxes to deposit your ballot in. We're going to talk about that. As I said, we'll talk about that in a sec. Election day. Election day is Tuesday, November 5th. The polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you need to find your your polling location, you go to vote.nj.gov, click on the button that says polling location, type in the information that they ask you, and it will tell you where to go. And we keep those updated. We get updated by the counties on a regular basis, so you'll have updated information about that. In-person early voting. We are now, Brittany, what year are we in for in-person early voting in the state of New Jersey?
We kicked off in November of 2021.
Okay, so this is we're coming up end of 3 years. My math is bad, but
Yep.
okay. So for the general election this year, that early voting period begins Saturday, October 26th, and runs Sunday through Sunday, November 3rd. Each New Jersey county will hold 9 days of early voting in person, early in-person machine voting. Okay, and each early voting location will be open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can find out those locations for your voting sites in your county, and there are multiple of those sites around each county. You can go to, again, vote.nj.gov, click on the early voting button, and you'll get it'll take you to the information that you need. Voting by mail, which is extremely popular in New Jersey. Applications for mail-in ballots can be found at the New Jersey Voter Information Portal. Again, the deadline to submit a mail-in ballot application to your county clerk to receive it by mail is October the 29th. We suggest that you not mail it after that because there are postmark deadlines or receipt deadlines for these applications, and you want to make sure that if you're going to get a ballot, you get your mail-in ballot application into your county clerk as early as possible. You can, though, if you get later on and get to a point later on where you find out, gee, I really need to vote by mail because I got called out of town or whatever, or life is busy right now and I want to make sure I vote. You can go in person up till 3 p.m. on November 4th to your county clerk's office, apply for a vote by mail ballot, and get one. Okay. Once you fill out your ballot, you can track it. We have a Track My Ballot tool, which is a great tool because it tells you all your voter information as well. And it's, again, found at vote.nj.gov. You create a private secure account. To do that, you'll need your voter ID. Everybody says now, what's my voter ID? Well, you can go to the Am I Registered tool, and the Am I Registered tool will tell you what your voter ID is. It's also on your ballot. So when you get a vote by mail, a mail-in ballot, you'll see your voter ID. Okay. You can also use your driver's license number, your last 4 digits of your social security number to sign up, but we suggest using the voter ID if you can. It is the most direct and easy piece of information to use. So how can you return your mail-in ballot? 1, it must be postmarked on or before 8 p.m. on November 5th. You can use, if you mail it, or you can use a secure ballot drop box and place your ballot in one of your county's secure ballot drop boxes by 8 p.m. on November 5th. Dropbox locations can be found at vote.nj.gov. Oddly enough, we have all the information you need there. Or you can drop it off at your Board of Elections office and deliver your ballot in person to your County Board of Elections office by 8 p.m. on November 5th. And that information, that contact information can be found on the New Jersey Voter Information Portal. Important note, your mail-in ballot cannot be returned to your early voting location or your polling place for this election. And here's a flyer that we have available online to tell you about the 3 different ways you can vote. So if you want to distribute that to folks in your community or to your family or to friends, it's available online on the portal. We really want people to become poll workers. Poll workers are incredibly important. They are absolutely critical to the success and integrity of our elections. Poll workers are truly among our election heroes. And so become a poll worker. How do you do that? Well, citizens, including college and high school students, 16 and above, yes, 16-year-olds can work as poll workers, are encouraged to, in New Jersey, are encouraged to apply. Training is provided. It's a great opportunity to earn additional money and participate in our democracy. And you can submit an application to be a poll worker by visiting pollworker.nj.gov. Now, a couple of points here. We administer the applications. We don't do the hiring. The counties do the hiring. And the need for poll workers are going to vary from county to county. But if you're interested, please do apply. It's a great experience. It's a long day. They need poll workers also for the in-person early voting, and the counties can explain how they do that once you get to them with your application. And here's 2 representations of a flyer that we use to tell people how to sign up to become a poll worker. One is in English and the other is in Spanish, and again, available on our webpage. Some key dates to remember coming up for the general election. September 21st is the beginning of the mailing of mail-in ballots for the general election for those people who have applied for them. October 15th, deadline to register to vote for the general election. October 29th, deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot by mail for a general election. October 26th through November 3rd is the in-person early voting period. And November 4th at 3 p.m. is the deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot in person, if you need to do that last minute, at your county clerk's office. November 5th, of course, is the big day. That's election day. And the polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So now I want to talk a bit about civic engagement and voting and how they're related, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. As I go through this, please bear in mind that what I'll talk about are core messages that we're asking folks to take back to their communities. So I'm going to start with a basic premise that we want folks to think about. John Lewis famously said, "Democracy is not a state, it is an act, and each generation must do its part." Put another way, democracy in this country is not about what we have, it's what we do. And while he was speaking to all of us, I believe, and we believe, that John Lewis was speaking in particular to the young people of our country. It is in them that he saw our greatest hope, and indeed it has always been that way, but certainly never more than it is today. Getting our young people involved in the election, getting them started in this process as early as possible so they form good habits, participate, and vote is absolutely critical to the strength of our democracy. A little bit more about what's the relative importance of civic engagement and voting? How are they related? It's not always apparent to people. You online here may already know this, but it bears repeating if you do. And these are the messages, again, that we're trying to get out. We want, at the Department of State, we think civic engagement is important because we want everyday New Jerseyans to be informed and empowered to help them engage in the civic and public life of their communities. And like John Lewis, it's our belief that a healthy democracy needs active and engaged citizens. You may be asked at some point by people, or you may have asked yourself, what does this have to do with voting? What does civic engagement have to do with voting? Whether it's at the federal level or at the local, county, and state and local elections. So what's important to know about that? So here's what's important, we think. When people have a stake in their communities, they are more likely to involve others and have a reason to vote. So the more involved they are, the more likely they are to vote and get others to vote. So let's dig a little bit deeper and talk about the core issue, the heart of the matter, that voting empowers us. More often than I like, I speak with people who say to me they don't think their vote matters. Now let's take a look at that. First off, there's the basic math. Okay, every year we hear about close elections. In a Colorado congressional district in the last 2 years, a seat was won by 546 votes. In a Virginia Senate seat was won by 348 votes. A Trenton City Council seat within the last year and a half was won by a single vote. So there's that. The math does matter. But to understand the importance of your vote and why it matters, you need to understand the importance of civic engagement and how it's related to voting. So where's the connection? I think these next two thoughts are a good starting point to explain that. First, when we all vote, we take a commitment to tackle issues that will strengthen our democracy and create an inclusive society for everyone. People don't often think about voting this way. Second, when we show up to vote, we make a real change in our city, state, and country and demand a better future for all of us. And that's really, really important because that speaks to accountability to our election officials, the accountability of our elected officials. To extend that line of thinking, voting is important to both the individual voter and their community. Your vote doesn't just affect you, it affects your family, your friends, your entire community. And when you vote, you are also voting for them too, and in many cases, for those who can't vote for themselves, as Shadea said, children specifically, okay? Voter engagement and civic engagement are intertwined. Voter engagement is civic engagement. It's a function of civic engagement. They are linked, and they directly affect the quality of life in your community. As we said, the more people are involved, the more likely they are to vote. So that has a direct effect. And when people do participate in the public lives of their community on a regular basis, the result is voting, reinforced in some cases by community organizing. Voting becomes a regular, sustainable community activity. Basically, it becomes a community habit, not just an individual habit. And that's what you want to have happen, because that results in a better informed and engaged community participating in what the Constitution intended, self-governing. So when it comes to voting, most of us think of by the way, the presidential and congressional elections. Shadea touched on this a bit. Obviously, they're incredible. They're really, really very, very important. No more so than this year. But we want to expand interest in voting beyond those elections to local, county, and state elections. We want to strive to make them have the same stature as federal elections. Because here's the thing, most of the government that affects, the governance that affects us all occurs at the state, county, and local levels. The former Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, very famous guy historically, used to say that all politics is local. Well, the same can be said for governing, because think about it. As you all know, it's at the local level that your vote and active participation probably has the most immediate effect. It is local politics and government that has the most direct effect on the everyday life of most Americans. Trash collection, filling potholes, K-12 education, local environmental issues, local healthcare issues. It's at the local level that community members are most likely to become involved in public life, like school board meetings, town planning meetings, jury duty, working at the polls. So locally is where it all plays out. And we want more people to understand that so they become more involved. Having said that, we have a very, very important election this year. at the federal level. A little bit more about how voting empowers us. Too many people say their vote doesn't matter. I mentioned that before. Here's an illustration that shows why it does. In order to, and I've used this diagram when I do organizing training and just sort of translated it into voting. I think you can get the significance of the many small fish organized together going after the big fish. The big fish, and this is the big fish meaning whatever your goal is. In order to turn issues that are important to you into action and legislation, it's much more effective to work on that together. Alone, you cannot affect change pretty easily alone, okay? But together you can. And if you're organized and vote together, and when I say vote together, work to vote together, work on your issues and then encourage people to vote, you increase your chance to make change significantly. Voting and organizing folks to vote is all about translating your values, your issues into action in order to change public policy and get legislation passed ultimately. In short, the future will be stronger when everyone participates. Or as I heard in a song from the cast of Hamilton just yesterday, and I'm going to not do it as well as they do it, but I'm not going to sing it. This nation depends on participation. It's really that simple. So again, just a reminder, in November, we'll elect the President of the United States, as well as members of Congress and a US Senator, and we'll also, and these are really important elections, but voting is more than that, than presidential elections and federal elections. Again, governance takes place locally, so we'll also be voting for municipal offices and county level offices. So it's very important to vote in all elections, Even if we always have elections in New Jersey. We have fire board elections in New Jersey. We have school board elections in New Jersey. We have municipal elections. Every year there's an election. Important to be involved. Remember, too, the candidates we choose now are accountable to us. Remember what we said before about when you vote, in effect, the more of us that vote, the more accountable those folks are. And that's what they're there for. They're there to be accountable to you. They represent you. So the more we vote, the more accountable they are. Please be sure to be engaged and vote. It's the best way to strengthen our democracy. And to kind of sum up this section and this piece of the conversation, at the Department of State, we want to continue to create community-initiated conversations about what's important to each community and its residents, and relate that to why we need to vote. And we ask that you please do the same in your own communities. We want to ensure that all those who want it have a seat at the table. That includes certainly everybody here. It includes young people. And what we provide, and that we provide an experience that is at once respectful, empowering, and inclusive. A little bit about what we do at the Department of State. Okay, I mentioned I run Jersey Civic Engage at the Department of State. These, and what I'm going to talk about now, are examples of how we put our thinking into action about civic and voter engagement. Here's some of the programs that we run. Jersey Civic Engage is an umbrella program. It's a multifaceted, nonpartisan initiative of the Secretary of State's office with a goal of growing civic and voter engagement throughout New Jersey. It is an umbrella for multiple programs and is aimed at facilitating and encouraging collaborative civic engagement with a particular focus on youth. Its basic premise, as I've mentioned before, is that a healthy democracy needs active and engaged citizens that have a stake in their communities. Our role at the Department of State is to provide guidance and information and tools to participants. We did that in the census. We worked closely with ACNJ, who was very, very active in the census and oversaw a whole group of nonprofits who helped to get out the count and make New Jersey census count a very, very, very successful one in 2020. During the census and now, we acted as a conduit to help participants in our programs collaborate and share resources with each other. And this is our webpage at Jersey Civic Engage, at jerseycivicengage.nj.gov, and you can see the programs and read about all of that there. We are all about, by the way, at Jersey Civic Engage, through one of our programs called the New Jersey Alliance for Civic Engagement, or NJACE, about trying to build local civic engagement teams. And we are happy to help anybody who is interested in doing that, do that. Their main function is to serve as community organizing action teams. That would be a local center for all resources and activities related to civic and voter engagement. And in our world, communities, by the way, is a broad-based term. It could be geographic, but it could be affinity groups. It could be like faith-based groups, education groups, certainly college campuses, high school communities. And we work very closely with high schools, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So we can provide you to help to do that and provide you some guidance, some community organizing training if you want it, as well as a a local civic engagement team organizing toolkit. And the reason we work on team, we suggest teams is because it's very, very empowering. People, and most of these teams are volunteers, feel like they're part of something larger than themselves. They can take on responsibility and own a specific piece of what's going on in their community. Teams are more productive. They produce, research has shown this, more than twice as many hours as regular volunteers. We love individual volunteers, but we know when volunteers work as a team, they get a whole lot more done. And they're built to last. They provide for enough people to do what needs to be done. They kind of grow with additional volunteers and recruit more volunteers is actually one of the tasks of a team. And they begin to provide a strong volunteer leadership structure inside the community. Here's the toolkit, which talks about some of the things a number of the things I've just talked about. It's online. You can use pieces of it. It's meant as a standalone tool, but it's also a companion tool to our community organizing training when we do that. And it's meant to be self-starting and easy to use. So there's the local civic engagement organizing toolkit for you if you'd like. And there's a QR code. Again, you'll get a copy of this presentation, so you don't need to look at that. One of the mainstay programs of the New Jersey Department of State on Jersey Civic Engage focuses on our mission to promote youth participation is the New Jersey Ballot Bowl. And in fact, yesterday we kicked off at William Patterson University the 7th annual Ballot Bowl. The room was packed with students, all there to hear from the Lieutenant Governor and hear about why it's important to vote. They heard from a couple of New York Giants players, it was a great event. But that's just the beginning of the event. This event runs through Election Day, and it's been going on since 2018. Lieutenant Governor Way has led the New Jersey Ballot Bowl. It's a friendly, nonpartisan competition among New Jersey's college campuses to engage our young voters across the state. And it's conducted in conjunction with our national partner, the All on Campus Democracy Challenge, who also runs a parallel program to get college kids voting on campus called the New Jersey Campus Voting Challenge. It has been very, very effective. In the last 2 years, it has registered 3,000 new voters and has accounted for 14,000 pledges to vote, commitments to vote. And we don't even know what the knock-on effect is because kids talk to kids. And that's part of the reason we do this, because these teams are student-led. And we want they're much more effective that way. This year, we're proud of all 28 participating campuses. That's a lot of campuses, and we can't wait to see what happens. We also conduct an additional program that allows our ballot bowl teams and asks our ballot bowl teams to go out in the community called Ballot Bowl Community Engaged, which is encourages them to work, meaning the teams, in those communities around each campus to register voters and ask them to pledge to vote. Now, our ballot ball schools have gotten national recognition, and some of our students have. They've been named to student voting honor rolls by the national organization All In, and multiple ballot ball schools have been recognized nationally for their voter registration and civic engagement activities. It's a very, very successful program. We also run a program called New Jersey High School Voter Registration Week. It usually takes place. It does take place in April. We are very tuned in to high school voters. Now, this year it happened during April 14th through 20th. And what we do is we invite high schools and communities to facilitate the nonpartisan registration of eligible 18 and 17-year-old students to register to vote. And we partner with the New Jersey Department of Education and collaborate with multiple community groups like the League of Women Voters Energizing Young Voters programs, with colleges and nonprofits as well, to maximize the program's effectiveness. Over the past 2 years, it has influenced over 12,000 during the time that the program runs, which is about 5 weeks at a clip each year. 12,000 high school registrations. Now, one of the things that's happening the 23rd through the 27th of September, which isn't on the slide, is National High School Voter Registration Week. So for those of you who are interested, you can contact me and I can get you some more information. But we want to encourage our high school students to register to vote and to vote. And this is a great opportunity, if you're interested, to register high school students in your communities. So I wouldn't be a good organizer if I didn't ask you to do something. So this is a message that for you and to take back to your community. Here's what you can do to be part of the process of democracy. We all know democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires continual work to protect it and to keep it strong. And the best way to protect and strengthen our democracy is to participate in it. So make sure you're registered to vote. Make a commitment to vote. Vote. Ask 5 of your friends to register to vote. Ask 5 friends to vote. Become a poll worker and let people know about vote.nj.gov. And certainly you can follow us on our Facebook pages and our social media pages, where we're, particularly during election season, continually providing information about the elections and civic engagement. And with that, we're happy to take some questions.